Sure. Thank you. Alrighty. Check some audios quick. Live over on the Facebook is good. Live on the YouTube is also good. And we are back, everybody. Whitetails and Whiskey, episode number 16. It is?
Or 16.
Because 15 was the 15 knob last week.
15 was the 15.
So,
knob.
The infinity bottle.
Getting pretty close.
Getting pretty full. I think episode 20 is going to be our infinity bottle giveaway, which is every whiskey we've done.
You think you got 4 more shots in here?
I think so, because we took a little sampler off of it tonight before the show to see how it's kind of doing. It's a little harsh, but there's a lot of different stuff going on with it.
It's not bad.
So, not too bad for a blend of everything in there. And I mean, there's even some kind of flavored ones in there. Got the 2 bird dogs, a crown, which is kind of vanilla-y. There's a lot of different kind of flavors in there. So, we'll see. And we'll let it age up and try to figure out how we're going to give that away to a lucky listener. So if you guys have any suggestions for a giveaway, contest, any of the above for the infinity bottle, pretty good stuff. And like I said, we figured we'd do one every 20 or 25 episodes and keep it rolling with it.
Closest guess to the next Bills game.
Maybe. But tonight we are doing one that is kind of a collectible, I guess you could call it, of sorts.
It's got some different stuff going on. Did a little research on the key and stuff like that. It's got a bunch of stuff going on with it.
Yes. So tonight we're trying the Blade and Bow, and we haven't tried this yet. We added it to our infinity bottle already for the podcast. And what this is this has 5 different numbered keys. So you got to go out there and actually go hunting, not just for this bottle, but for one of the keys for the bottle.
How many keys are there?
5 keys.
5 keys.
So, and what it is it's called the Key Club, and you get a VIP tour of the Stitzel-Weller distillery there.
And it's made by Weller.
In Kentucky. It's made at the old Stitzel-Weller distillery.
Yeah.
Yep. So, a lot of history, a lot of rich history with it and stuff like that. I think they bought it. Probably going to butcher this. I did a little bit of research on it today. The 2000s, I believe, Blade and Bow bought the old Stitzel-Weller distillery. And then they came out with this Blade and Bow. So 5 keys to collect. This is key number 3, if anybody's wondering. I also have a 5 and a 4 up there. So we'll see in the next couple of years. Might be able to track down a 1 and a 2.
And you're going to take me on a vacation to go to Stitzel and Weller.
Well, we're going to have to for the podcast.
Don't tell Hannah you're taking.
We're going to have to go to the tasting rooms and see if we can run into Jimmy Russell and go to Stitzel-Weller and maybe try to kill some whitetails in Kentucky. I mean, I think that'd be a pretty good.
That'd be a hell of a vacation.
Pretty good vacation. A little ruckcation, whiskey tasting,
mm-hmm.
Rocking and rolling. So we got a good little pour here tonight for the Blade and Bow. So a little spicy, not too much going on.
Not bad.
Really smooth.
It's smooth, but it actually, like you said, to the smell, the spiciness, you almost get the spiciness on the.
Yeah, the spice kind of carries, and the spice is actually kind of holding. Some of them you just get that
like
flash in the pan.
You know, I call it like a. I don't know why I want to say paprika, but
pepper.
Pepper, or it's kind of like a.
Getting some pepper.
Like a burst of flavor right off the bat there.
Yep, and I'm still getting kind of steady flavor with it almost.
I'm getting it like on the back of my tongue.
Yep. So yeah, not a bad one. Like I said, just not a whole lot going on with it. I mean, it's like tasting this, tasting that. Like with the Infinity, you get almost a little bit of everything. It almost kind of overwhelms you a little bit. It just kind of goes.
There's a lot going on.
A lot of different.
It wasn't bad though.
No, that wasn't bad. Yeah, and this one's not bad either. Like I said, I'm always a first kind of sip to see how it goes, and then the second one will see if there's anything that changes with it, but see, I get that like that oak kind of char, pepper, and almost kind of a leathery taste with that. But it's smooth.
Yeah, it's smooth
It's
right on.
super smooth, and that's coming in at 91 proof.
See, I get a lot of oak on the
Kind of oaky.
smell, but then on
Yep.
the flavor, it's more of that like spice.
Yep. And we were saying too when we smelled the cork, we were almost getting like a cherry. Cherry.
I
kind
said
of
oak, you said cherry.
Yep.
Cherry.
Kind of. So
It was
I mean,
good though.
we're just
Good.
two new whiskey drinkers.
I'm a new whiskey drinker.
I've been for a couple years, but not anything crazy. You know, we can't give you too much of the whiskey stuff. We don't know what we're talking about. We'll just tell you what we think.
We do know a guy who's a professional whiskey drinker. He knows his stuff. Might have to have him on here. Joe.
Yeah. Yeah, we talked about that. We talked about having a couple other guests coming on here in the next few weeks. A couple guys that run like
Got a couple cool episodes coming up, I think.
Yeah, I think after the holidays, after season.
We got the confirmation from our our main butcher. I guess we have a secondary butcher if he's not doing it, but Andy agreed to set up a time with us after the holidays. He's going to come on here and talk about pointers for hunters, how you could help your processor out when you bring in your deer, and maybe give us some pointers on if you're a DIY guy on how to, I guess, make life easier on yourself, hopefully.
Yeah, some of the tricks for do's and don'ts. You know, some stuff we've learned the last couple of years talking to him.
Yeah, he's been great. I mean, I just got to know him a little bit last year. I mean, his family's been butchering my family's deer forever.
Yeah,
but
decades.
He just recently took it over from, I believe it was his uncle. And but he's been running for a couple of years, and seems to be. I think the first year was a little bumpy for him, but it seems like this year he's got it all kind of figured out. Everything seemed to go pretty smooth.
Yeah, feet back under him.
From what I could tell.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then another one is a friend of ours who is how do you want to say it, runs the Upstate New York Upstate Sportsman Facebook page.
Yeah, kind of like a hunting community Facebook page.
We're gonna get together with him, and we're gonna stream it on Upstate's Facebook page. And Mike's a big turkey hunter. He wants to do a little turkey hunting.
Yeah, I'm all for that.
We'll get into that. I mean, we'll obviously keep the whitetail and involved with everything. But yeah, it's gonna be
other stuff too.
Yeah. So it's gonna be got a couple of cool episodes coming up here after the holidays, and I'm kind of excited for.
Yeah, Mike's right there commenting in on the Facebook. Upstate New York Sportsman will team up with you and put you on the group page. So
there's Mike
looking
right there.
Forward to it.
Thanks for tuning in, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's talking, like we said, after the holiday.
Yeah, everything's kind of busy. I mean, even tonight was a little
bit of a moving pieces around.
Trying to fit this one in, but because it's still season. But Christmas coming up, it's always a busy time.
So, birthday shout out to my cousin Christina, who turns 30 today. She asks, "What's a good recommendation for a whiskey to drink on your birthday?" Depends on what the bar's got.
Yeah,
I mean, it all kind of depends. There's some really good, I guess I don't know what you.
And how you want to drink it? Do you want to mix it?
You want to drink it rocks?
Do you want it on the rocks? Do
little neat like we kind of do?
Do you want to do a shot?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it all depends on how you want to drink it for the.
Yeah, I mean,
recommendation.
What your kind of flavor is with it. So I mean,
one of my favorite. This actually brings up one of my favorite shots to do at a bar is a pickleback. And
pickleback.
The pickleback. You usually do it with Jameson, but you can do it. You can pick whatever whiskey. I do it with Jameson, and then you do the shot of Jameson, and then you follow it with pickle juice, and the pickle juice like nulls the whole burn of the whiskey, and they kind of complement each other pretty good. So
Yeah, so she says neat or straight. So something that you'll probably see on any bar that I would recommend neat or on the rocks is one we did in an earlier episode is Turkey 101. That's going to be one that just about every bar is going to have on hand. And I think it's a really good one that can hold its own on the neat or straight side. And again, like we're doing, you don't shoot them. If you're sitting there sipping one or whatnot on your birthday, or whatever, even if you're sipping one at night. I mean,
Yeah.
the lovely decanter down there at the end of the bar is filled with actually Turkey 101. So that's kind of a go-to for if you're mixing it. It's one that's not going to break your bank for a mixer.
I would do
Or
that
you can
on
drink
the,
it straight.
I would do that on the rocks personally. The 101.
Yeah. Yep. Not quite maybe as smooth as, let's just say this, the Blade and Bow or something like that. But if you're more of a Jameson, I know a lot of people like JMO on the rocks.
Well, there's quite a few bars that got Gentleman Jack.
Gentleman Jack,
That's
if
a decent
you're getting up above that kind of that baseline one, yeah.
I mean, I don't know what kind of bars you go to there, Christina, but I know a lot of the bars that I guess I would frequent don't really have a lot of the higher end stuff. It's more of your
kind of
basic bar
straight
liquor.
ones. But again, if you got one that, and this is probably my favorite one that I'm drinking right now. And I actually turned my dad onto this, and I got 3 oohs when we pulled this one out.
Ooh.
Different is what he kept saying. Elijah Craig small batch for the price. This one, if you're just getting into whiskey or if you've been into whiskey for a while, you probably had it. But this has probably been my go-to for the last couple days anyway, for sure. It's one I really enjoy. But
hopefully that helped you out, Christina, and happy birthday. It is Christina's birthday, right?
Yep, Christina's birthday. So
happy birthday.
Yeah, and when you're here, you'll have, don't tell my wife, but 50 some to choose from if you want to try them, and we can try a whole set of flight.
There you go, blowing yourself in. Hannah heard it.
Yeah, oh well. Some of them I might be a little reluctant to open, but that's okay. But yeah, so thanks, and yeah, so I think she's coming over next week too, coming to visit, hang out, and stuff like that. So we haven't seen them in a while. So absolutely. Mike's giving the big thumbs up. Deer, turkeys, etc. Absolutely.
I feel like we got.
Gotta love it.
Looks like it might be.
Nope. But yeah, so I don't know. I think it's good. It just doesn't have a whole lot going on for like that $55, put it on your shelf.
Yeah, no, I think it's good.
It's a good sipper, but it's not like one I'm gonna go out and buy when it, goes empty. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
let's see here. We're all done with muzzleloader.
Yep, the first muzzleloader, I guess we'll call it. First muzzleloader, Southern Zone.
That's all over with.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, for anybody who's still running trail cameras, now is a good time before Christmas to sneak out there and maybe move a camera,
pull a camera,
swap a card out, whatever you're doing. Now is a good time to let your spot sit for a couple days and all that, and check and see what you got going on.
Yep.
And then I believe the holiday hunt starts the 26th, the day after Christmas.
Yep, which is where you tagged your buck last year with the muzzleloader.
The day after Christmas, I got beautiful 8-point.
Yep. Yeah.
That was we talked about that story on an earlier episode, but but I used, and then we talked about this on the last episode, is that a lot of people don't know, is that your regular season tag is an either sex tag in the late season.
Correct.
And it's also an either sex tag in the holiday season.
Correct.
Where I tagged a bow buck last year, so I used my bow muzzleloader either sex tag, and by being able to use
your regular season
my regular season tag, I was fortunate enough to go out on a 1-day permission and get that nice 8-point.
Yep.
I think he had widespread. Was he like almost 22? He was 21 something
It is
spread.
21 and 6 or 7/8.
He was almost 22 inches inside.
Yeah.
He was
really nice buck.
Not very tall tines, not a lot of mass, super wide, and he wasn't broken at all.
And again, 1-day permission piece.
1-day permission, and we hunted. It was snowy, it was cold, and I know we talked about this before, and you get them snowy, the weather front days, with some precipitation. You want to hunt more of the proteins or
the high carb,
the corns, the beans.
Yep.
If you're hunting
acorn flats, maybe
acorn flats, the timber. If you're hunting in the timber, more of the nutty. The nutty areas.
Yep.
That will you'll definitely see a little more success around that on those worse weather days for sure.
Yep. Bo's been our legislative update every show, so thank you, Bo. He said the holiday hunt actually got vetoed on the governor's desk. So the opt out. I'm assuming.
So that's the opt out per county.
Yeah, I think
so. They're just going to let it go statewide.
I think so. I think that's what Bo's saying, because that's what the proposition was to make it a county by county decision. So yeah, Bo says yep. So yeah, that's statewide. It's on. I mean, whether they change it for next year, that remains to be seen. I think this time was just a little bit too late in the year, I think, to make that happen. I think timing-wise, I think you could see it happen like they did with the youth season.
Now this is now we're talking, the county opt-out, right?
Yeah, the county opt-out. Yep. So the holiday season is still going on. It was just the proposition for it to be a county's decision to have the holiday season or not got vetoed. So it is on statewide.
Yeah.
For the southern zone. Sorry, I believe southern zone only for the holiday.
I'd have to look more into it.
Check your regulations book for the specific WMUs to see if that qualifies for the piece you hunt. So.
And then Eliza, my wife.
Yep. Shout out Liza.
Shout out to Eliza. She had 2 firsts this year. Eliza had 2 firsts this year. She got her first buck with a bow. And then she still had her regular season tag, and same thing to what we were talking about of what happened to me last year. My in-laws were grateful enough to keep Owen for an extra couple hours that day, and after work, or no, it wasn't after work. It was on a Saturday, actually. It was this past Saturday. But the in-laws did watch him, and we ended up getting out for the last 2.5 hours. And in one of my spots, there's the farmers over the years just kept dumping rocks in this hedgerow. So it's kind of like a rock hedgerow that goes up through there. And there's a spot that I found, and it's actually where I killed my gun buck. We sat in the same spot, and we had the same wind. We went out there to see if she could get just a deer with a muzzle loader, and she did it. I mean, I was actually anticipating the deer to kind of come out on the Greenfield side, judging by pictures and everything that I was getting, and from what I've been seeing the week prior. But actually, the only deer that came out that night was a beautiful 8-point.
Yep.
And actually came out on the corn side of the hedgerow.
Yep.
And so we only had a couple shooting lanes. And she goes, Nate. I didn't see the deer. She did. She goes, Nate. She goes, there's one over there. And I had my binoculars. I pulled the binoculars up. And I kind of looked through it. And I see him pick his head up and kind of looking in our direction. And I was like, man, that's pretty good. That's not a bad buck, I said, that'd be her biggest buck, her personal, So I told her, I'm like, I think it'd be your biggest buck. And she's like, I don't know. I can't really get a good look at him. And I was like, well, I said, he's already moved through your first window. I said, you got one last window. And I said, you're going to have to get out of it because we were hunting the ground. I said, you're going to have to stand up. The snow was crunchy. I said, you're going to have to make a move. I said, if you make the move, I said, that's your window right there. I said, you got to get to that window before he passes it. I said, once he passes it, it's over. I said, he's gone. And he did have a little bit of a limp with him, which I'll touch on that after we recovered him and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But she did. She got up and she got into position, and he did look our way a couple times, but it was so thick in that hedgerow, I don't think he could see us, but he could hear the snow crunching every once in a while.
Yep.
And he did. He walked right in that window, perfect broadside shot. And I remember I couldn't really see what was going on, and I'm waiting for her to give me some information. And she goes, oh, he's a lot better than I thought he was. And I was like, yeah, I said, I'm pretty sure that'd be your biggest buck. And there was just silence after that. And I don't know, maybe 30 seconds went by and the gun went off. And
Kaboom.
She's never shot a deer with a muzzleloader. So, so the smoke and everything. And she looks back, she goes, did I get him? And I was like, well, I didn't see anything run on either side of the smoke. I said, is he just laying there? Did you drop him?
Yep.
And, we got looking, and yeah, he was just laying right where she pulled the trigger. She did a great job, great shot, double lung. Come to find out, the limping was because I believe it was his front left. He only had half of his hoof.
Yeah, he only had kind of, if you look at both toes, like, I'll put the right one down, but he had like just a little sliver.
Yeah,
and then this one was like.
And there wasn't any blood or anything. I don't know if he was born that way.
I don't know if he was born or injured, but it's something they had for a while. For sure. It wasn't like anything fresh for this season. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's why he had kind of that limp or whatever you said.
Yeah, but yeah, congratulations to Eliza, my wife. She's a killer. She's a savage.
Yep, savage.
And yes, and we had our first baby.
Yep.
Back towards the end of August. He's doing great.
Yep.
But it's been a big year for her, big year for me.
Muzzleloader buck, brand new baby.
Thank God we have good friends and family with that new baby, or else we wouldn't be able to get out and do these things.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So everybody's saying congrats to Liza. So shout out Liza again.
Yep. Liza's killing it. My wife's a savage. I married a savage.
There you go. So there's another congrats, Liza. Mike says, Bo, show us where you see that. Don't see it anywhere. I don't know. Usually when they veto stuff down and it never got like put into the veto or, dismiss it or whatever, it usually won't get any press coverage because a lot of times it was never an accepted proposal in the first place.
Well, I mean, it's a little too close to the season now. I mean, if it did get vetoed, I think it would almost have to be for next year. I mean, things were already kind of.
Yeah, it was set and printed,
Yeah,
again, Bo. Bo is our legislative and current events.
Bo's
live
on
feed.
It.
Bo's on it.
Bo's on it.
Yeah, so appreciate that, Bo. Absolutely.
Yep. For anybody who's looking at that. But if she did veto it, it sounds like the holiday hunt is still on for all of New York then.
Yep. Southern Zone there starting Monday.
Yeah.
So, and again, talking about that Monday coming up, and we got this bad weather rolling in, you're going to have deer wanting to put that feed bag on. I wish we could hunt like Christmas morning or Christmas afternoon.
Or tonight or tomorrow evening.
Yeah, it would all be nice ahead of this front.
But it's not looking that way.
Yeah. So that's the thing with the fronts is you got to watch these fronts and watch that weather. And like I said, unfortunately, we're kind of in the gap right now with season, unfortunately. But there's still some opportunity out there. You said you went by a couple hunting spots tonight. There was fresh digs. I mean, there was stuff out in the fields.
Yeah, I've actually what was it? It was last week. I saw it was a cut bean field. I saw it was like 16 deer out in it.
Mm-hmm.
They were hitting that cut bean field pretty hard.
Yep. Yeah, and I had a pile of them, one of our food plots this afternoon. I was sitting there talking to my dad, catching up with him, picking up some chicken feed for my turkeys and birds.
Yeah.
So, they're out on food right now. So if you got food right now, start, maybe take these next couple days, like Nate said, pull some cameras, move some cameras, maybe get out there, do a little scout. a walk with the family, something like that. Get some eyes on some spots. Do some driving around your local hunting area to see what kind of food sources they're on to know where to go.
Yeah.
Hunt and stuff like that, or what spots to kind of look for food.
Yeah,
But
doing a little homework if you got the time this week. You're off of work. Maybe do a little midday driving and kind of see what the deer are doing. I mean, the snow is a great indicator to see what deer are doing in the evenings, at night, because they leave a trail.
Yep. And if you're looking out west of here, where they've been getting dumped on with snow, I know some people have been posting pictures with foot to like 2 foot of snow in the picture with the deer. So you might be looking at a timbered area, with a lot of browse and thermal cover and hunting it that way. So there's different strategies, like we said, based on kind of the conditions you're dealt with in your hunting area, to be successful right now. You're not going to hunt the spot you hunted, beginning of archery season in October.
Right.
So,
yeah.
And being that flexible, that's what's going to help you tag that late season deer for sure. Everybody, congratulations. We can just scroll right through all Liza's congratulations. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
Thanks again. Couldn't do it without you. I can gut a deer faster than you, though. She's got them raccoon hands.
The raccoon hands. I think I talked about that in like episode 3.
Yeah, gotta be. It's been from the beginning.
Yeah, Liza can. She could. We actually
should time
it. Me and her did a little.
Head-to-head.
I knew it wasn't a set thing, but I knew her competitive side. Me and her were gutting a deer side by side, and I knew she was in the back of her mind thinking that I got to gut this thing faster than Nate. So, and she did, and I kind of knew the same thing, and we were doing it obviously as safe as we can without cutting ourselves. But Liza can gut a deer.
And, got them quick hands.
in pretty quick amount of time.
So Bo posted a article about snowmobilers not happy about the new holiday law. I know in our region we don't have that much of a snowmobile
what do we got now?
Trail system.
2 inches.
Yeah, I mean my parents got a little bit more. You get up, closer to Lake Ontario, and I'm sure west of here, out, Wyoming County and stuff like that. They got some, they get some good dumpers because of just the way it holds off of Erie, and then obviously the tug and stuff like that. But a lot of the northern zone doesn't have holiday season, so But yeah, so I mean that's part of it. But snowmobilers at the same time, they'd be upset if they had snow on Thanksgiving and they couldn't ride because of deer season because the trails weren't open yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It
depends on the year. I'm not a snowmobiler, so I guess I don't really guess that's a good point to bring up.
Yeah.
About, I guess a different hobby and how it would conflict with ours.
Yep.
But I've been out hunting and had people on horses go by and had people on 4-wheelers
I've
go
had
by.
people go by on snowmobiles on neighboring pieces.
I mean, as long as you're safe and you're aware of your surroundings and you're aware of what's around you, I don't really think there'd be a whole lot of conflict with the snowmobilers. I think more up north. I guess if you're up in the Adirondacks, I guess Tug Hill and Old Forge and those places, and you're hunting around the state land up there.
Yeah, which I believe a lot of that northern zone now is done. So again, that's open for this time of the year. I think they end on, I want to say it's like the 10th of December, something like that, maybe. It was like a week or two ago, I think. Again, I don't hunt northern zone.
So the veto was just for the
southern zone holiday season. Bo comments in, you western state guys, in my opinion, you're going to start seeing a lot of guys from the east go to your neck of the woods. There's a lot of buzz and people interested in hunting the western part of the state now. I could definitely see that. I mean, we over the last 15, 20 years, I mean.
Yeah, I could see it. It's not easy to get hunting ground. I mean, everything's private. I mean, there is some state land. I mean, they're gonna
I think there's archery opportunity on state
Yeah, there's probably some good
for some
archery
back
opportunity.
sections and stuff.
I mean, for guys to travel out here, I mean, they would. I think maybe in the southern zone. I mean, at least around here in the, you don't really hear about a lot of like farmers leasing out land. I guess, for money. Usually it's like a lease to, like a trade-off
Permission,
lease, or it's just a permission piece.
family member,
And if it's
you
a
know.
permission piece, they're probably going to have to hunt it with somebody else. But I guess if somebody wants to hunt out here and they got the coin, I
Mhm.
guess you could persuade anybody with
For the right
the
dollar
right
number.
amount.
Yeah, no,
Um,
so I think there's some of that.
but I don't know much ground around here that's going to be easy to get on without any issues.
Yeah.
At least in our neck of the woods.
No, I think that's going to be part of it. But again, there's a lot of this stuff out there now where, it's pretty easy to find out who owns a piece. You don't have to go doing a lot of door knocking that you used to have to do 10 years ago either with
Right.
some of the apps and stuff like that. So,
Yeah, and Onyx is great for that.
if you're looking at property lines, pieces, owner information, some of that stuff, it can point you in the right direction pretty quick. But again, I guess my big advice is, you're going to be told no. I've been told no on pieces before.
Oh yeah.
So, and that's the thing that, maybe it's, you got to knock on 100 doors to get that one yes. You never do know.
Making phone calls. I mean, a lot of, and I'm going to go back to our regions, our region where we hunt. I mean, they're not publicizing, land for lease. I mean, I think that's more of like, I know we're called the Southern Zone, and I guess the DC's map. But if you actually get towards the southern tier, like towards PA, I feel like there's more leasing opportunities.
Yeah, I could see that.
I see a lot more of them being
Some timber-owned
posted.
properties and stuff like
Stuff
that.
like that you can lease.
Yep.
The Finger Lakes region is so broken up into private parcels. I don't know. I guess it's possible, but I feel like it would be pretty difficult.
I think it's becoming more and more common, and I think one, you got to knock on a lot of doors. I guess this is just my kind of advice from years of doing permissions, doing leases, owning own pieces, et cetera, and the whole kind of spectrum of things, growing up and all that stuff. The big thing is just you got to treat your landowners right, and you got to treat them better than you treat your family, basically, if you want to keep it. And that means, and a lot of
treat them like family.
Treat them like family, at least. The family you like anyway.
Yeah, as long as you have a good family.
But no, so like like stuff like a holiday Christmas card goes a long way, in these small town families and stuff like that.
Sharing your harvest.
Absolutely.
Offer to them. Venison.
Yep.
That goes a long way with a lot of people. Thing that's really helped me in the past, being a permission guy, is actually trading labor. I would go up there and I would ask to hunt. If I get a little he and haw from them, I would offer. I don't offer a lump sum. I always trade labor first because I'm a person that doesn't have a lot of money.
Right.
I do well. I live a comfortable life, but I don't have
lots of expendable income.
Thousands of dollars every year I can just give somebody to go hunt a piece.
Right.
Even hundreds for that matter. I always traded labor, whether they needed firewood or some garden work or
packing bunk. I mean,
fixing a gutter on their house, or simple things like that you can offer people. That's always helped me if you're someone like me who doesn't have the expendable money.
Yep.
I know one of my leases, it kind of worked out that, they're great friends of mine, but we kind of treat each other like family, I guess. But he told me, he goes, well, okay, I'm going to let you hunt this piece. I'm going to let you solely hunt it, and you let whoever you want out there. He goes, my only stipulation is that if any trees fall in my field every spring before I go to till and plant it. He goes, I want those trees out of my way.
I've helped you with a couple trees.
That's happened. And that was something. So that's something I do. I try and do before every planting season. I get out on that
Spring
piece.
turkey scout.
I do a little spring turkey scouting, maybe a little shed hunting. Hop on my 4-wheeler and the chainsaw, and I go cut up whatever's in his field, big limbs, big whatever, just so it's out of his way of his equipment.
Yep.
I know, but that's something that trading labor has worked for me. If I don't know if that helps any of you guys, but
Yeah, and the other thing that I'll say too is, if you're getting a piece, for maybe a good value, you got to show that value to the owner, like you said, the labor, maybe it's, giving them, some increases in your rent cost or your lease cost, to keep it. Because again, the worst thing you can imagine is somebody goes in there and says, well, the property's worth 10 times what you're offering it for. And that's how we've lost out on pieces, stuff that was the standard for years or whatever. Just some of these lease prices now have gone up immensely.
It's ridiculous
for
honestly.
Some pieces. So, I'd say give them a fair thing and ask them what they think a fair value would be for the piece too. Again, treat them how you want to be treated with it, and you'll have a better relationship because of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll help you keep more pieces for longer.
Yep.
There's definitely a few pieces I wish I could have had back over the years.
Yeah.
I've hunted some nice pieces over my my tenure or whatever you want to call it. But
yep. And then another example is a different farm I hunted a while back. It was a dairy farm, and my payment to be able to, for me and my family to be able to hunt, well, I think it was
that section or whatever.
It was the north section there. I think it was probably 100 acres, mostly field, but I think there was like 40 acres of woods on it.
Yep.
For us to lease that, my family, I had to pack bunk every
September,
sit in a tractor,
August.
I get out of work, go sit in a tractor till 9-10 o'clock at night, packing bunk for them. And if some of you guys don't know what packing bunk is, that's when they bring the silage in from chopping it. It's the tractor that packs it down into the mow.
Yep.
And that's other ways, I mean, it's the same thing. It's kind of trading labor, but they were short-handed, and that's what they needed, and it worked out for a few years, and then things, life goes on. But yeah.
But no, I think that's definitely good information for anybody that's got a piece or maybe looking for a piece. Like Bo says, maybe some people are headed west. I guess it's the new frontier in New York. I don't know, but I think that's some of the things you can do to maybe set yourself apart from the kind of the average person, and make them feel worthwhile. It's a Christmas cookie basket, a Christmas card, that extra stuff that makes it that small town good relationship with that person.
And if you do harvest a deer off your piece, I mean, even if you show up to their house with 3 to 5 pounds of hamburger, and a burger, and just be like,
that's not getting any cheaper at the store.
Just be like, hey, thank you. Sometimes they'll accept it, sometimes they won't, but it's the gesture that goes,
Yep.
It definitely goes. Most people will accept it.
A lot of people like that jerky.
Hey,
or that summer sausage, stuff like that.
Yeah, the specialty stuff. You get any specialty stuff, cut a hunk out of that.
Yeah, you can sacrifice a stick of summer sausage to keep that smile going.
Yeah. Wow, keep that smile going and
keep the permission
you hunting.
Yep. Absolutely.
If you like the piece.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But yeah, so other than that, I know we got, late season. I know we want to take a few more does. I was talking to my dad this afternoon. But we get a lot of, I call them, I guess, non-resident does that start to move in on some of the high quality food and cover, as the season goes. So I know we're looking to take a few more does here with the muzzleloader and bows and stuff like that here in the holiday season. But the big thing that I tell everybody, it's the first thing I usually check when they get to the farm, is making sure they got a good set of optics. Because it's not out of the question to have a shed buck right now either.
It's possible.
Yep. So you know, couple things that I kind of look for with those kind of shed bucks and those antlerless situations would be kind of head shape.
And then button bucks are getting pretty big right now.
And there's some pretty big button bucks out there too. So that's where it goes back to that head shape. Those does kind of have that rounded top of the head. Those bucks will have kind of almost like a flat look between where their pedicles are or where their antlers were. Button bucks will have that kind of flat look across the top, not so much rounded.
I'm guilty of it.
Yep. And I mean, at some point or another,
kind of kick the dirt a little bit, but
yeah,
when you find them, you're like,
yeah, damn, it's happened.
I mean that.
If you haven't shot a button buck, your time's coming. I guarantee you that. But so just looking them over good, looking at kind of the way the deer are interacting with each other on the field too.
Interacting.
Yep. Kind of the loner is going to be the button buck, going to be the shed buck, going to be that kind of stuff.
Bucks always kind of walk with a different posture also. I mean,
yep.
I know when you're driving down the road and a deer crosses the road and you're like, that looked like a buck. Well, I'm not looking at his antlers. I'm just looking at the way that deer moves.
Yep.
Like if you watch a buck and a doe move, the buck, the way he postures and his cadence and everything is different from a doe.
Absolutely.
That's something you can kind of pick up on.
Yep. Yeah. So Bo says another problem with the holiday hunt is shed bucks. It depends. Obviously you have high stress stuff like an injury, was shot, hit by a car, injured in a fight, stuff like that, going to cause stress. Yeah, they're going to be shut out. But as a majority, a lot of deer, at least in the southern zone where we are as well, where the holiday season is, it's going to be January, February.
I mean,
February
I've
for the
had
most
bucks
part.
on camera that hold into March.
Yep, as have I. But I mean, at this point,
usually smaller bucks. But
I would say, especially with kind of as temperate of a fall going into winters we've had too, I don't think a lot of bucks are going to shed as early maybe. So, yeah, I mean, we really rarely have a shed buck, this kind of early before Christmas. Usually, I guess we get the first couple starting to show up on camera, shed out, like fresh shed out with blood and stuff like that on them, probably like first, maybe second week of January. So it is getting close for some of them, but it's not really a majority.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say. So, yeah, not many people are doing what you guys are doing and checking to see if they shed or if they're button bucks or not. That's a good point, but at the same time, a lot of hunters. I mean, there's less than probably 20% of hunters in the field that there was at the beginning of gun season. No.
Yeah, and most of them
30%.
Most of the guys that are out there in late season with muzzleloader or bow are probably your more experienced hunters. Probably your more hardcore.
Yep, more dedicated guys. Yep.
Brandon, yeah. The meat's always good.
Yep.
I mean, it's your tag. You're right. I mean, things happen, but yeah. I mean, I got friends that are meat hunters.
Mm-hmm.
They go out there and anything that moves, they shoot.
Yep.
Do I invite them out on my favorite pieces? No, but I'll go on a buddy hunt with them on, a spot that I don't have as much or whatever. I mean, I still respect it, but it's just a different view on things, I guess. Not everybody is a trophy hunter.
Right.
Not everybody's looking for a big buck. Some people are just looking to fill the freezer.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, mine's pretty full. I mean, with two nice bucks,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I put just short of 200 pounds in the freezer with 2 deer. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of stuff going on with.
Yeah, I got no problem with meat, but
I think I do want to take another doe or two, one for kind of our herd numbers, and kind of also, I'm really trying to get this summer sausage recipe right.
Your last batch was pretty good.
That last batch I came up with was pretty good. I think what it was missing was like a little bit of, like some of that high temp cheese. I think we just put that recipe about spot on with that summer sausage. So
just adding that little extra water to it, I think, did it.
Yeah, I did try a little bit more water with it this time.
It's just, I know last year's was really dry, and then this year it just seems to have that
nice
little
balance,
more
nice
moist
balance to it.
consistency.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. I got a hold of my aunt because I do still have um, my a DMP,
Hmm.
and she said she would like a whole deer. I mean, I don't need any more meat, but I like to either reach out or, if a family member gets a hold of me and says, hey, I would like a deer for the freezer. I haven't been able to harvest one myself, or different life situations happen.
Hmm.
So I kind of was in contact with her, and she said she would like one. I think I'll try to get out and see if I can put a doe on the ground for her.
Yeah, and the other thing is too, if you're fortunate enough to take multiple deer, you know, try to spread it out across, maybe more than one property you hunt, or maybe go take one, on a state piece or something like that. Don't just hammer everything off of, one piece of ground, and then the next year just throw your hands up and be like, where'd all the deer go?
Right.
So you have to also kind of make that conscious management decision with it, where, hey, maybe I shouldn't shoot 3 deer over here because just because I got the tags for it doesn't mean I need to shoot it. And then kind of wonder where all the deer went in the neighborhood.
Well,
Um,
that also depends on the deer population in the area.
yeah, it's all relative.
I mean, if you're hunting a piece and you got, I don't know, 13 deer
Yep.
all in one picture on your camera,
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
you're probably all right to go out there and, harvest another doe or,
Yeah.
or whatever. But if yeah, I mean, if you're hunting one of them spots and you're in a little more high pressured area, and you're only seeing, whether through your camera um, results and what you're seeing out in the field, you're only seeing maybe 2 or
The
3
same three
deer.
does every time.
I mean, maybe not go out there and smack them.
Yep. Yeah. So, you just kind of got to use your best judgment the best you can with it. And like I said, this time of the year, depending on your property, food source, etc., and that's where you might have to change your tactics a little bit, or look at different food sources, or not, hunt the same way you hunted in October, because that's not going to work for you to consistently have success. You're going to have to look at situations and adapt and evolve, and kind of learn, and sometimes learn as you go with some of it. But looking at those situations is going to help you long term. But again, that long term starts with right now. If you're not seeing the deer, or have shot, maybe a couple more than you should have, or whatever it might be, kind of take that into consideration when you're trying to make that happen late season too.
Hmm.
Because there's some pieces like my lease piece, for example. I could go over there, but I've done a little scouting and there's no deer over there. So go to your spots and scout a little bit.
And what we touched on earlier, I mean, if you do, like I said, if you do have some time off,
Hmm.
especially a couple days prior to Christmas, go. You got snow on the ground, just do a drive by and maybe glass the snow out in the field, or if are there deer actually coming out there and feeding out there, because
Right.
you'll see their dig spots, you'll see their tracks.
Yep. 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 And not that 55 mile per hour scout. We're talking pull over, pull the binoculars out, and kind of scan the field and see where the tracks are, because you'll start to see it if there's deer feeding relatively in an area, or like we said, maybe go walk around the edge of a timbered area and see, what kind of traffic you got around it and stuff like that. Those could be the hot spots for this time of the year. Brandon commented in, long comment. I gotta click the see more button because I can't see it all. Wow. Essay over here. Alrighty. So that's another thing about the tags, the number of deer taken. Back when I was in college, our professor told us that the state issued on average anywhere from 600 to 800% more tags than the estimated population of deer. So yes, just because you have them doesn't mean you need to fill them, especially on a management standpoint. On top of another state ratio, for every one tag filled, 6 people go without filling a single tag. That's a great point. Like we said, with some of the data crunching that we did with the state numbers that they release, you're looking at 47% of people taking a deer.
Less than 50% of registered hunters in New York actually harvest a single deer. We're not even talking a buck. We're just talking a deer.
Yep. And out of that, I think it's like, what, 30% is a buck? 3 out of 10 hunters kill a buck.
A little less than 30%.
Yeah, slightly lower than 30% kill a buck. So, again, they issue all these tags to try to get the harvest numbers where they should be for a zone. And that doesn't mean that that zone is the same for every property in that zone. You and me hunt two very similar WMUs, but we might manage those with what deer we take very differently. There's some years, dude, where we've gone out and we've punched, 7, 8 doe tags in a season, on a single piece of property. And then there's other years we shoot 1, 2, none. It just kind of depends on what we're seeing, and that kind of goes back to that rule of 5 that I use.
Yep.
Or that rule of 4 maybe that I've said for some clients that might not have as high a deer density. Where you can comfortably take 1 out of 4 and keep that population fairly stable, with the regular, I guess, predation rates and stuff like that, and normal winter survivability. So, but yet they include the holiday hunt in the entire southern zone. Yeah, so I mean, eastern part of the state, I know that's where Bo's at. He's talked about that in the podcast and stuff like that with us. So the eastern part of the state, I will say, from working with that from a consulting standpoint, is drastically different. Once you hit, I guess, probably Syracuse, there's kind of a zone in the Catskills, I guess you'd call it. Syracuse, and then once you get west of Syracuse and along Pennsylvania border, you kind of have a zone in there where it's almost a different kind of properties, different kind of landscape.
Yep.
Different deer populations, all that stuff like that too. So I do agree with Bo in some sense that not necessarily an opt-out, but it should be more of probably a consolidated, I guess, in some situations. Like it should be almost WMU specific. And there's a lot of states that do that it's zone specific or however they break up their state. So I think in some areas with lower
WMU, I think would be a little easier to manage than a county.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so the DC really looking at WMUs based off of deer population. So WMUs are divided by typically roadways, water bodies, county lines. It depends on what WMU it is. And then they manage those management units, those deer management units, WMUs, with the specific populations they estimate on that WMU, based on harvest, based on bow hunter observation data that they gather from volunteers and stuff like that. That's how they gather their approximate deer populations. They used to do flyover surveys in some areas. I don't think they do a lot of those anymore because of the cost of them. Winter flyover surveys. So there's a lot of stuff that they do to try to crunch these numbers the best they can. But like we always say, and it also is the law, guys, report your tag, report your tag, report your tag, so that the DDC can have the best numbers that they can possibly have, so they can make the best management decisions, for the WMU and for the state. I don't know. I think that's kind of hits the nail on the head. But they're not including the whole southern tier for the holiday hunt. Why? But they're not including the whole southern tier for the holiday hunt. Why? So, I mean, they are, well, a majority of the southern zone is holiday hunt in. So, I'm kind of confused with the holiday hunts for the southern zone. It's on, I don't know what Bo's trying to say, but they're not including the whole southern tier for the holiday hunt. Why? Yeah, they are including the whole southern tier. So I think It's the easiest one to enforce for the whole southern zone, because you have northern zone, southern zone, and then you have excuse me.
Well, it's
It's the easiest to maintain and manage when you split it northern zone and southern zone, because that's how the states split automatically
it's it's
or
it's all
historically.
based on, I mean, total deer population is what they look at in a whole, and whether, I mean, your zone is lighter in population than others. I mean, the state's looking at it as a whole.
Yeah, so
I mean, they break it up, northern zone, and I believe that's the DEC that's kind of breaking it up. I mean, when it
yeah,
comes
and
to,
that's historically how it's always been.
right, but I mean, the total number of deer in New York, which we've touched on before in other episodes,
Majority
is
southern
a
zone.
top 10 state in total deer population. And I know because I hit a deer and I talked to multiple collision companies, and we're talking insurance companies, and who runs the world? Insurance companies. So deer collisions are through the freaking roof this year. I hit a deer, I can't get my truck in to get it fixed for 2 months out. Little bit of because of they can't get the parts, but it's an older truck, so they just go get a used one, fix it up, and slap it back on there.
Mhm.
But these numbers and what they're doing aren't going to change when it comes to, they're going to add, all New York's going to do is they're going to give you more tags, and they're going to add more seasons
They're trying to get
to
the
try and get the
number.
deer numbers down because of the amount of money that it's costing them.
Mhm.
The
I would
deer are
agree.
actually costing
I
them.
would agree that that's a piece of it for sure. But again, like we always say, you guys got to report your tags. And I know, based on, numbers, they estimate only it's like 50% of people report their tags. Estimated.
That's their estimated number.
That's their estimation based on,
And that's the best we can go by because
yeah,
we don't have any other data elsewhere.
that's the baseline estimate, is based off of what gets turned into the processor. Your processor takes in 100 deer. We'll make it simple, opening weekend. And only 50 of those tags get called in that they already checked. That's their 50% reporting rate that they slap across the board so they can get these numbers as accurately as they can. If they just went off of what was reported, you want to talk about dealing out more tags, you'd watch those numbers skyrocket in what they give out. We'd be pulling 4 doe tags on the first draw for some of our zones if that was the case, because it would double. To try to get to that number, you'd have to double out permits again. So.
But I mean, that's a tough topic.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, if you look
It's
at
all tough.
all the different avenues and everything, I mean, New York is never going to base it, have a big priority into the deer management. They want less deer, in my opinion.
Yeah. So
I mean,
the higher scoring, yeah.
they want the revenue they get from the hunters.
Mm-hmm.
They want that. They want the little bit of money that all of that the hunters and everything contribute and give them.
Mm-hmm.
But they want that money, but they want it without
Right.
the cost of, deer accidents.
Yep.
More deer population, more deer crossing roads, which means more cars got to get fixed, which means more money insurance companies are shelling out.
Right. No, absolutely. Good point. So, I had a comment come in from Dallas. Don't like the holiday hunt, don't hunt it then. Imagine being a kid who can only hunt weekends all year and then having a chance to hunt that week. Tremendous opportunity. My daughter is really excited next year when she is 12. So I do agree that it does give us another, what would that be, another weekend?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're talking, you got 5 weekends to hunt, you get another weekend, that adds another 20, 30% to your season. It does. It does give more opportunity. I will not deny that. And for some of us,
I'm all for the holiday hunt personally, because if my buck tag isn't filled, You know, let me rephrase that. I still have a buck tag in my pocket, and I still have nice bucks on camera.
Mm-hmm.
I still want to chase them.
I think anybody would.
I still got mature bucks out there
Mm-hmm.
on camera. I still want to go out there and chase them because I got a buck tag.
Yep. I want to adjust my
I
strategy.
want as many opportunities as I can get to go harvest that deer.
Yep.
It's my personal choice
on what deer it is.
What deer I shoot.
Yep.
It's not necessarily, you know, I like the holiday hunt because it gives me that extra opportunity to go, or like Dale said, to go out with your kid, or you hunted hard all rut, and you're serious about it,
mm-hmm.
and you didn't want to spend the extra time, no offense to the younger kids, they're learning, but fumbling and bumbling around the woods were the beginner,
mm-hmm.
because you want to get so these early seasons and these late seasons, I feel, are, to Dallas's point, a good opportunity to get youth out, or a good opportunity to get an experienced hunter out and show them a little bit of what we do and what we're all about.
Yep.
I mean, what deer you put on your tag, that is completely up to you.
Yep. No, I agree with the extra opportunity. And again, like we've said with this, I'm going to agree to disagree, but also kind of agree with some points, is a northern zone, southern zone split might not be the right decision. But again, just because a county might opt out, what we saw with that opt out with youth seasons is specific counties, I might be wrong with this, but Erie County or out near Buffalo opted out of the youth season just because of political reasons, not because of the welfare of the wildlife issue of the youth hunting season, but the politics side of it, which is where you get that conflict of interest with that opt-out. I think that opt-out needs to come from the state going, okay, we need to grow the deer in zone 8, region 8, which isn't the case for most part, but we'll just use that as the example. We need to grow it in 8, so we're going to shut down the holiday in region 8 or specific sections in region 8, this season, based off of what was taken or what wasn't taken. Mm-hmm. I think there could be more of that, but as a county opting out, I mean, you could have Wayne County opt out, okay, but that shuts down, let's just say, probably 3 different WMUs or partial WMUs, because you got J, F, and there's one more in there.
H?
H maybe is still maybe Wayne. I know we're 8J and 8F.
No, H I think is.
So you could have
Bristol area.
If you shut it down on a county's not a WMU. it overlaps. So you could have them shut down multiple WMUs or sections of WMUs because they shut down a specific county. So I think it should be based on the numbers coming into the DEC, not necessarily the county official that's sitting behind a desk that might not be a hunter or have any interest in the hunting of it, and might be solely making that decision based on politics, is where I have an issue with it. For that county opt-out.
Yeah, I mean,
that's my 2 cents on it.
But most of the people running the state, I don't feel like are big sportsmen.
No,
New York.
And a lot of the stuff with it. So,
I mean, this is all just kind of. I mean, this is just like a revolving wheel here. It's unfortunately, we live in a state who doesn't prioritize, our sports, our hunting
as a whole,
the sportsmen as a whole. Yeah,
yep.
Really.
So again,
I mean, they do put, I think, as little effort as they need to into it when it comes to these things. But I think as a state, and the majority of it, I mean, it's all based around, money, and that's it.
Right. So we had a couple comments come in. Brandon says if they don't report their tags, then the quota won't be met for that season, meaning that they won't issue more tags next season. Yeah, but at the same time, if they're also doing, like we said, spotlight surveys, aerial surveys, stuff like that, and they see a large amount of deer numbers in a WMU, they might still issue more tags. So it's kind of a catch-22. Just because you're not filling those tags doesn't mean that the state's going to be like, oh, we need to issue less because they're not filling them.
Right.
And then Brandon also says no one forces you to pull the trigger. Absolutely true. It's still your tag, your choice on it.
Mm-hmm.
So Dallas says all management decisions should be made by the DEC. I think they absolutely should be made with the best sound wildlife management objective, that they can be. 100%. Bo says, I still want to know what was the reasoning behind the DEC implementing the holiday hunt. Was it opportunity or population control?
Population control.
See, I differ with that.
Really?
I think that I would go for opportunity over population control.
I'm sticking with my guns on the whole New York State thing. I don't think
I
New York
know,
State
I
gives a
know.
shit
And this is where you and me we
about
differ a little bit.
The hunter. I mean,
Yeah.
you can talk to any econ officer you want. They're probably going to tell you that they're doing the best they can for you, but I think New York State as a whole does not really care
Right. Yeah.
for it. I think it's population control, and I think it has to do with money. That
Yeah.
would meaning insurance companies, and the main focus in New York is New York City.
Right.
Go to any southern state. You tell them you're from New York, they think you're from the city. They don't
Well,
even know that
yeah.
there is
No,
any other part of New York.
No, that's true for sure. And I've been in some of the southern states and stuff like that, but I think it's more of the opportunity side of it because also the hunting opportunity is not what it was 20, 30, 40 years ago, like you said. Um, with the opportunity and not necessarily time opportunity, what they're trading is time opportunity for land availability. If you follow what I'm saying with that, 20, 30, 40 years ago, you could hunt a country mile without running into a piece where you weren't allowed to be. There's a lot more land opportunity availability to, I guess you'll call it the everyday hunter.
The big drive days where you see the
Yeah,
truck bed
absolutely.
full of orange
Absolutely.
vests going
So
down the road.
so now I think what you have with that is the trade-off with the state going, okay, we can't make people give permission to hunt their land, so what we have to do to bring numbers down as a whole, again, looking at a whole standpoint rather than your specific WMU property, whatever, is the state has to say we have to give more opportunity to take the deer off of a landscape level to the hunters to get that same number to keep it in balance with the habitat. We're losing habitat. We have to take more deer. Without bringing back habitat, you can't reduce your deer harvest as well. As well as, and this goes right back to what you're saying, and I'll tie into how I agree with what you're saying, is tying into how it's focused on money and people, but that is human interaction. And what that means is it's all driving back to lack of habitat and lack of hunting land opportunity to hunters. So what's the DEC have to do? They have to lengthen seasons. They have to up bag limits to get that same amount of deer to balance on that scale with people and habitat and try to balance that the best that they can. And that's me, I guess, trying to tie it into the way my head kind of works on the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why they give more opportunity is because there's not as much land available as there was 20 years ago, and there's not as much habitat as there was 20 years ago. I mean, you go drive around a neighborhood and how many old little hedgerows and woodlots and stuff like that are gone now and maybe turned to ag or hay or a housing complex or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
There's my 5-minute soapbox.
Habitat.
Old Tin Cup habitat restoration enhancement.
I think habitat has something to do with it. But I mean, total deer population. I mean, Bo, if he's from the Catskills, I mean, if you're talking habitat, I mean, they got it all. The only thing they're missing is the big ag fields that will feed these numbers.
Well, or
the numbers.
maybe mixed age. Sorry, mixed age of woodlots where there's a browse component to that. Just because it's cover and trees doesn't mean it might be the best food.
Right.
Yep.
But you come to the Finger Lakes versus the Catskills or the Adirondacks. What's the main difference there in all three of those zones? What is the main difference in landscape?
Food per acre.
Food per acre. There you go. So, I mean, I could walk through a, let's say, 100-yard by 100-yard brush patch across the road from my house. I'd kick out 20 deer.
Oh, 100%.
All because
food per acre.
If there's food source around it, they're going to pile in there. They'll sleep on top of each other. As long as the food's there. What's the number? Yeah. I mean, what's the deer's number one goal besides breeding in the right time of year?
Food.
Eat.
Yep. Eat
so
all
if
day,
you go over
day.
to the Catskills, you get them hilly, timbery kind of regions.
Yep.
You get into the more mountainous regions, Catskills, Adirondacks. You get into that. It's not
as much food per acre.
Terrain for an immense amount of whitetail.
Yep.
Because it does not have the food per acre to sustain that.
100%.
So if you come here to the Finger Lakes and these deer we have an immense amount of them, it's because of the ag fields. It's because of the food in the regions. Are those big farms taking habitat out, and is that, I guess, hurting the quality of our deer herd? I would say yes.
Can be, absolutely.
And the more that happens, it will hurt us more. The more parking lots we have out there filled with cornfields and bean fields and whatever it is they need to sustain their living.
Yep.
But that is the biggest difference between the zones.
Yep.
And it's
food per acre. It all comes down to food per acre. That's it.
I mean, in the Catskills, I think it's pretty hard to run probably
50 to 100 pounds per
acre. Have a 300-acre cornfield on the side of a mountain. I don't know if that works. I mean, that's just the terrain you're in. I mean, you can talk about how the state manages the deer and this and that, but the bottom line is New York as a whole is a top 10 state in total deer population. And it's not going to happen. Yes, our majority of the deer in the Finger Lakes, well, we just explained to you why that is.
New York, it's food per acre.
And we just explained to you why that is. It's the terrain you're in. I mean, it sucks if you're hunting out there and you want more and you want better, and every time you go out, you want to see, 10 doe file out and 2 bucks or whatever, however it works. It's the terrain you're hunting.
It's management different ways too. It could be timber thinning, in some of those areas.
Timber thinning to have more undergrowth to supply more
food per acre
that are within the brow reach of deer.
Yep, absolutely. So I think that's a big part of it too, is that it all comes back to food per acre and hunting opportunity based on, I guess, area. You know what I mean? It's not, like I said, it's not 20 years ago, man. I could probably 20 years ago when I was a kid, dude, I used to be able to knock on.
What grows antlers?
Food.
High nutrition.
Or food in general. Got to have the
food in general. But yeah, that high nutrition food, the proteins, the carbs,
all that stuff to sustain through that winter and hit the ground running in the spring. You got to have it. You got to have enough food.
Look at those Midwestern states. What are a majority of those big buck Midwestern states? Big, huge ags. They're ag states.
A lot of food per acre.
You got to have the food in your area to sustain it. And yes, food plots help draw deer, and food plots help with all this other stuff. But the biggest, I think, bitch here is that's just how it is in those regions. I don't necessarily think it's anything really the state's doing. I don't really think it's the amount of tags put out. I don't really think
it's the food per acre in your zone.
In our area, I feel like the tag limit's fine.
Yeah. It's
and then your
regional.
tag, your choice.
Yep.
I believe that's working fine in the Finger Lakes region, but from what Bo is saying, I feel like that's just his area. That's the Catskills.
Yep.
It can't sustain that number of whitetail.
Yeah, and I could see that just being.
Same with the Adirondacks.
It could be a habitat thing. You know, it could be just a lack of the amount of food per acre, like we keep tying it back to. You know, comparative to the hunters per area. But the hunters per acre is also less in the eastern half of the state than it is in the western half of the state as well. So again, we go with that balancing act of tags versus hunters versus deer. You know, we're always trying to balance. And we're trying to balance apples and oranges over here. Eastern state, western state, northern zone, southern zone.
It's two different styles of hunting.
Oh, absolutely. Completely different. And how you look at and manage that is completely different. You know, like you said, are you going to put a 300-acre corn lot on the side of a mountain? No.
It's not going to happen.
No. But back to the comment line, because we've been going on a little bit of a you know,
maybe the
Whitetails and whiskey rant here.
Maybe the blade and bow kicked in.
A little blade and bow kicked in.
You
like it?
Yeah, I'll go for another one.
Nate's over here.
What are you on, your third?
Maybe. Brandon comments in 8 minutes ago. Yeah, we went on a little bit of a tear there.
8 minutes ain't bad.
8 minutes ain't bad.
Brandon ain't going anywhere.
Yep, he's all good. It's almost like the state needs to micromanage based off the township as far as the holiday hunt goes, based off the population and the number of deer taken, such as that we meet up on a so-called quota for a season. So we're opting these townships or counties, WMUs, out of said holiday hunt. But then it boils down to the cost of the state's resources. And like Nate said, the state doesn't care, so I don't believe that we will ever see it managed the way that it should be. That's a good point. I think it all comes down to, like you said, the level of care, or the level of care relative to the employees or the man hours to do that. You know, if you're looking at it on a town-by-town basis, it's a lot of labor, a lot of people, a lot of hours to do that, you know, and the DEC just doesn't have that budget line or that amount of manpower to do that kind of stuff. So I agree with a lot of those comments right there too, for sure. Bo comments in, how much more opportunity do we need? The DEC has allowed within the last 20 years October 1st bow opener, so earlier seasons, youth seasons, during archery season, moved to Saturday, allowed rifles into southern zone, crossbows allowed during archery season, holiday hunt added, the list goes on, and yes, the DC have given hunters more opportunities. I agree with that. Like I said, it is very regional though. You know, to look at that with the opportunity thing. A majority of opportunity has been added in the southern zone. Northern zone is already slanted toward earlier season for deer harvest with the way they set up their season, you know, based on their kind of habitat. And I think the state, as they get more data, as they get more information, can start to make some of these changes and stuff like that going forward. A lot of the stuff you have to add a little piece or take a little piece away and kind of see how the numbers react with it to see if that's the right way they want to move going forward or if that wasn't the best choice. You know, because a lot of this, like we said, is you have to try A to see if you get the result you want and then pull back A when it doesn't work or push more of A. You know, I think that's what it is. And I think the opportunity is directly related to the amount of opportunity of hunting area based per hunter to get more hours in the field. I think that's the biggest reason that they're adding season. I don't think it's a money thing necessarily. I think it's just a matter of a hunter now has less opportunity, and we'll put it in quotes, opportunity than another hunter did 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Because I could, when I was growing up hunting and trapping and all that stuff, dude, I could literally walk probably 600 to 800 acres small game hunting and trapping and all that stuff. Not necessarily deer hunting because I wasn't old enough to deer hunt back then. But you could just about walk block to block and hunt, fish, trap, whatever, and not have any issue.
Yeah.
So to get that same number of harvest, you have to lengthen the season because the area that each hunter is allowed is shrinking per hunter.
What's the main reason of that?
Habitat loss.
This actually ties into the next comment.
Okay, good point. So Craig, so I apologize if it's not Craig, but Kreg. I just pronounce it Craig. I don't believe the car insurance thing. State Farm, Geico, big companies are all across the USA. New York has one of the longest seasons, but not even close to the number of deer car collisions. I haven't looked at the data to look at that side by side.
Right, but he's talking about car insurance. These insurance companies insure way more than just auto insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And this also goes back to, property insurance. Talking, why can't you hunt a lot of people's property? Liability.
Very good point.
You look at the broad spectrum of what all the like Geico or State Farm, like the broad spectrum, everything that these companies insure and cover for us.
Mm-hmm.
What is their number one cost output that they put out every single year in an area or in a state?
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee it's auto, and I guarantee it's animal hits. You think?
Yeah, but again, like you also said too, with the liability thing, hunter opportunity is also shrinking because, like you said, is landowner A going to let you on their land to hunt with a firearm and put up a tree stand and all that stuff with a sue happy society that we have nowadays? Again, hunter opportunity shrinking.
Hunter opportunity shrinking due to
insurance. We'll
insurance.
tie it back to agree. I'll give you that. I think it's opportunity as a whole.
And I think, I haven't looked at the numbers, Craig. I know I got a little carried away there. But I do believe that probably the number one cost year to year for insurances are probably animal accidents in cars. Deer hits, dog hits, you name it. It's animal. They'll combine it all into a whole.
Throw liability suits on top of that. Shit. Boom. Where are we at? Brandon had a comment in there. Not to mention the yarding concept when deer move out of the mountains, knowing that the food will become scarce and move to thick in certain areas depending on how hard the snowfall is becoming, and back to lack of food sources available. Absolutely. Yarding is huge in high snowfall areas, low food per acre areas. You're going to see congregation of deer into areas with higher food availability. Mm-hmm. Seasonably. Absolutely. Good point right there. So a lot of times right now, this time of the year, we're seeing an influx in population that we don't have at any other point during the season, but the late season or winter months, on some of the properties, the way we manage them and stuff like that. So that's a very good thing that we get some kind of a yarding on some of our properties based on the food availability, cover availability that we have. We pull a lot of deer, and we pull especially a lot of antlerless deer this time of the year, does and fawns from neighboring pieces, because they're going to slot in on food and just fucking stack on it.
Yep.
Always do. Always do. So Craig said, I did a few searches on states like Ohio, Kansas, Iowa, biggest deer states. He said it's also Craig. We got it. Gotcha. Insurance and crop loss. Crop loss. That's another one for farmers and stuff like that too.
In high deer.
Yep, high deer density areas.
High deer density areas. A lot of, I've had farmers tell me, "Oh, good, that's one more not knocking down my stalks of corn or whatever."
Mm-hmm. Insurance on crop loss is something else to take into consideration. Craig says, right landowners don't like sue happy people. Absolutely, I think that's a big part of it.
And then when they're giving people permission, how do they know if you're a sue happy person or not?
Right. Yes. Bo comments in, Ben, you're saying when you were able to hunt that 600 acres, you were more successful than you are currently with less acreage. So that's kind of
You hunted 600 acres?
Well, I said when I was growing up, small game hunting and trapping, I had
Oh.
access to probably 500-600 acres.
Oh.
So I also at that time wasn't big game hunting too. So it's tough to say.
Well, you weren't born with the knowledge that you have
No,
now.
absolutely.
I mean,
So
when you were 10 years old out there trapping, or
learning,
12 years old, 13 years old, because we couldn't hunt till we turned 16.
yeah,
So when you were, okay, we'll say 14, 15 years old,
yeah. When I was 14 years
when
old,
you were
running a
14
trap
years
line
old
with
running a
Tony
trap line,
Giuliano.
you did not have the knowledge
No,
and the know-abouts of, how to be as successful as you are now. So
right.
that's a tough question
It's
in my eyes.
yeah, it's tough to
The way you
compare those
hunted when
two.
you turned 16 versus how you hunt now is completely different. I guarantee it.
The way I hunted 5 years ago, or you know,
The way I've hunted the past 5 years is changed immensely.
yep, yep. I 100% would say if I was hunting that 600 acres now that I used to be able to like small game hunt stuff like that,
You'd be more
different
successful.
story.
You'd be more successful
But
than
it's
what you are now.
yeah, I don't know, more successful, but more opportunity.
The more opportunity,
I
the
would
more
say.
success, the more
So
chance of success.
absolutely, there'd be more chance of success or whatever with it. So the 600-acre thing, that's kind of relative. That was more of just it was available to utilize for that reason, a small game, trapping, etc. Um, the big game side of it, I just wasn't able to. But then, as you know, the deer hunting and big game in that area got more, I guess, progressive. There was way better deer, now than there was when I was 12 years old. The last 15 to 20 years, I guess we'll call it, the deer age class, antler score, whatever you want to call it, in that block neighborhood, gone through the roof, man. It's not like it was back 15 years ago. It's just not. The age structure has progressed to a level that was not there when I was that age anyway, to be able to take advantage of. So I think to kind of answer Bo's comment, I am more successful on less acreage, like you said, because of what I've learned from being in the woods, what I've learned from trial and error, what I've learned from other individuals, what I've learned from people on stuff like the podcast, what I've learned from clients, what I've learned from my father. All that stuff has kind of developed me more toward being more successful on less, I guess we'll call it, acreage, or using multiple avenues of information that I've gathered to make the best decisions on the properties I hunt. So with less acreage, you can make it hunt better or make it hunt bigger than it is, so to speak. And I think I found a lot of success in that. So I would honestly say that I am more successful with less right now than I am with the 600, based on my knowledge and based on opportunity on that 600.
But also to tie into that, the way New York hunters have grown the past 10 years,
Oh, way different.
letting that 2.5 walk, letting them get three
Mm-hmm.
and a half, 4.5 years old. I mean, just as a broad spectrum, I think
The last 10 to 15 years has
the
changed it.
opportunity for everybody has grown.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, Bo says that, imagine if. I think it's coming. I think the western side of the state has kind of developed more quickly because of, again, we say food per acre, antler score wise goes up because of food per acre goes up. I think the eastern side of the state has to play almost catch up to try to get to that level, and you're never going to see it across the board. It's always going to be up and down across the state wherever you go. So I think that's why you see a lot of the antler restrictions on the eastern side of the state, because that's their easiest way to get to that antler score or that age is antler point restrictions. Versus out here, it just turns more into hunter education or just again, like you said, hunter choice. You know, and I think it is getting better, and it is getting better on an annual basis. You look at the numbers, it's getting better on an annual basis for antler score. I would say they don't quantify that data, but antler score per hunter, successful hunter, I guess, goes up. I would say almost on a yearly basis in New York over the last 10 years for sure.
Probably, yeah. Definitely over the past 10 years.
So
what else we got?
So Craig says, I've had 2 landowners want written contracts of not being responsible for any injury or liability. I don't blame them. So that's a good point. I know
if you're leasing a place, a lot of places are going to do that now.
Yeah, or require you to carry a small insurance policy, and QDMA, formerly QDMA, NDA offers a liability package. I think it's very affordable. I want to say it's under $300 for a piece of property to cover you and cover the landowner.
Yep.
So a lot of times on my lease pieces, I include that in my lease agreement, is that liability insurance away from that landowner. And just another thing to help you maybe, secure a lease.
Yep. Then we got Bo. So it's agent knowledge, not acreage, that makes a difference in harvesting deer. I would say yes. I would say that it's kind of like a seesaw.
He corrected age knowledge.
Age knowledge. I think all of us
not necessarily age.
The older we get, the more experience we have, the more knowledge we gain. I mean, every time we go out hunting, I feel like, you kind of take something away from it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of like a seesaw effect. I mean, it's like a balancing effect there. Definitely, the more acreage you have, which would increase your opportunity to be successful. But I mean, the more knowledge and the smarter you hunt and the more smart woodsmanship you put into your game, or whatever you want to call it, definitely will increase your chances of being successful and not consistently running deer off of that piece or hunting a spot on a wrong wind, which is going to, them deer are going to figure you out. I mean, the more, and then in gun season, I mean,
your property could be completely spent by gun season.
Because if you're not hunting it right, you're hunting it on the wrong winds, you're hunting it, you're walking in and bumping deer off of food. You might not even know it, and you're walking through a bedding area. I mean, a bedding area may not be thick cover. I feel like that's just a huge thing that the TV shows and the media put out there to sell their seed. You know how many just hillsides or bedding areas, just wide open hillsides. Now I wouldn't say wide open, but the little timber cover, like a open hardwoods hillside that the sun hits.
Visual benefit, whatever the reason is.
That sun hits them, warms them up. They take a nice afternoon nap or morning nap.
They're visual,
so they can see.
Wind, thermals. I mean, that all plays into it too.
Bedding isn't necessarily just thick cover.
Yep. It's relative.
It's a relative, yeah. So, I mean, you also got to kind of look at your piece like that. I mean, if you're walking into your hunting spot and you're like, well, I'm always bumping deer out of here, but it's not thick. Or well, you think of why that deer's there. When that deer's there, why that deer's there, and what are you going to do about it?
Yep.
Why, when, and what? I mean, you implement those 3 questions into your game or any stumbling situation you have, and you come up with an answer for it.
Yep.
You're going to increase your chances of being successful.
But I would say that
I think knowledge, just like Brandon said.
Yeah.
I think knowledge trumps
energy return on investment.
Yeah.
So
energy or knowledge trumps acreage.
Yep.
And how you hunt it.
Yep.
I mean, both of the pieces that I hunt, I have 4 different pieces I can hunt. Actually 5. I only focus my time on 2.
Mm-hmm.
because there's less hunters there. So that gives me more of an opportunity to do what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And both of those pieces are only like 40 to 60 acres apiece.
Right. Yep. And that's total, not counting cover. That's just
No,
that's
that's
total.
that's total. That's counting woods. That's counting field.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not out there hunting 200-acre pieces.
Right.
600-acre pieces. I'm out there hunting just little plots.
Yep. Yeah, standard New York size. Like I tell everybody too, when people start asking me what my average consulting size is, it's really like 30 to 40 acres in New York. And that's all across the board. That's Buffalo to Albany to Watertown to Orange County down by the city. That's everywhere.
And
So,
my thought on it is I'm capable of being successful on those by hunting smart. I'm
mm-hmm.
not bumping deer onto the neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not, if the wind's wrong, because I mean, a lot of these spots and the way the timber wraps around the field or is on a certain side of the field, I won't even hunt it on that wind. I'll just stay home. I'll sit at home with the kiddo and the wife and just cook some burgers.
Or go to a different piece.
Or if I go to a different piece.
Mm-hmm.
It's all on how your property lays out and how you hunt it.
Yep.
Is how you're going to be successful.
Yep. Got to break it down to it. YouTube, Keith chimed in, says, evening boys, evening Keith, joining us a little later in the night. We're getting pretty close to the end of the live stream.
Our Keith?
Keith, my Uncle Keith, 5 Watt World.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, Keith Williams. So Brandon, getting these, he's got to come on. We got to have Brandon on.
We're gonna have Brandon
contributing to the conversation. Got to have it on. So
Brandon, you got to let me get a word in edgewise though if you come on.
Yeah. So Brandon comments, 10 to 15 years from now, we will see increase in the numbers of larger sized deer taken across the board. I hunt state grounds, and I would rather just out of the challenge standpoint. But 5 years ago, I would see 1 to 2 bucks per season, aged from something's messy with the comments. Aged from 2.5 plus. This season on the same piece, I sat the same stand 1 week straight up to sundown and witnessed 8 different bucks, 3.5 plus or older, along with uncountable numbers of younger bucks. I think it was around 19 or 20, sort of lost count. But the education and knowledge of New York State hunters is increasing each year. Honestly believe this whole state can produce some serious bone along with full freezers. Bo comments western part of the state. I'm assuming commenting back to Brandon's. But yeah, I think it's shifting too as well. With there's not as many people hunting state land parcels as there was either. 10 years ago or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
I think there's less people hunting state land now than there was 10 years ago or 5 years ago. But I also agree, like Brandon says, all across the state, the age class is improving. Think back, 10, 20 years ago. I mean, that one buck I got out in the garage, that really wide one's a great example.
20 years ago?
Yeah. When I found that big wide one, just north of
11.
I know. That's when we found that big wide one north of my grandmother's, dude. That was a giant. Still is a great buck. Absolutely, 100%. Would love to tag that buck. But that was it. That was like the top shit back then, man.
But now that's kind of fallen. Yeah, I mean, he still is a stud, but he's but that, I mean, his antler size nowadays would
130 inch, 135
would fall into a
great buck. A great buck.
Wouldn't say a tank in New York.
Yep. In some areas.
But a good buck.
Yep. And I think that age class is progressing.
Bo, I need to move. Come on out the Finger Lakes, Bo.
Yep. I'm a real estate agent. I help people buy and sell land all the time. But no, I think it is improving, and this is, again, we're looking at it from a very small lens. We're looking at, like Bo says too, we are in the Western New York lens. We haven't hunted Catskills. We haven't hunted really outside the Finger Lakes.
I've worked in the Catskills.
Mm-hmm.
I've worked in the Adirondacks. I used to do professional fireworks. And I would do shows all over the Catskills. I would do shows all over the Adirondacks. And I mean, those are my experiences out to those places, minus vacationing here and there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you definitely don't see as many deer as you do as if you were driving through the Finger Lakes.
No, and it's definitely food per acre. Like we said, it all boils back to food per acre.
And that's what supports them. I mean,
Yep.
if there's no food, they can't eat. They can't survive.
You got to cover more acres.
And they got to cover more acres. So yeah, it boils down to the food per acre.
Yep. So in the Adirondacks, way more hunters on state land. Thanks to the hunting public and Adirondack trackers and other people
Thanks to the hunting public.
think they are northern. So like I said, it's a different culture almost. Western New York Southern Zone versus Eastern, Southern Zone. Those damn hunting public kids had to make state land hunting cool again.
I agree with the laughy face there.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, the hunting public guys, I mean, they're good at what they do. It's fun to watch them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, but that's what those guys are doing full time. I mean, do those guys have a family? Do those guys?
Well, some of them do.
Do those guys work a full-time job plus support a family plus do what the average guy is doing? I don't think so.
Yeah. So it's all relative.
I mean, if I could travel to every state
mm-hmm.
and hunt public for a week in a state and then go to the next state throughout each season, I feel like eventually, yeah, I would be successful in one and I'd be able to post a video and people would watch it. But the bottom line is that's just not realistic for the average guy. And I mean, I guess my idea of this podcast is to try to relate to the average guy and make him more successful and make him better.
Mm-hmm.
That's my idea of what you and me are trying to do.
Yep.
And have a little fun in between with some whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean those big stream guys, the hunting public, I just don't feel like it's realistic to the average guy what they're doing. Most guys can't leave their family for weeks on end to go hunt public land somewhere.
Yeah.
Guys can't leave their job. Most guys only get 2 weeks vacation.
Right.
It's just not realistic. I mean,
yeah.
So,
and then if you
so Bo, that's my take, Bo, and I think it was Craig up there that mentioned the hunting public guys and some of the other big guys.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, if you can hunt full time, all of us could be superstars.
Yep.
But the bottom line is we're out there and we're trying to get the best deer we can with the time and the energy we have to put into it. And I hope that the people watching this realize that that's what me and Ben are trying to do. We're trying to help you guys out. We're trying to help because that's where we're at.
Yeah.
We're at the, working a 40+ hour job, plus managing a family, plus all the other BS in between. I mean, and still trying to be successful and do what we like to do. And that's what we're trying to do trying to help you guys out. And I hope it does. And a lot of you guys are return viewers and appreciate it.
So Bo says, top comment of the night. I'll say with this one with Bo. My wife gets mad at me if I'm in the bathroom too long. I'm going to tell her now I'm quitting my job and I'm going to public land around the country.
Bo, you are the man.
You're the man.
If I had the balls to tell my wife that, actually she would laugh at me and just say okay because she know I wouldn't do it.
Good luck.
But good luck to you, Bo. I hope that works out.
But
if Bo's not on next week, we know what happened. I think his wife killed him.
Probably. But yeah, I think we've been at it for about an hour 45 just about at this point. So I think we're going to sign off. We had great conversation tonight. And yeah, I can't wait. I love all the interaction. I love the back and forth. I love this live. You don't get these podcasts in that live form, the communication with the viewers and the listeners and all that stuff, that back and forth, that answering the question, that give and take kind of stuff that you get with a lot of other podcasts. And I really do enjoy that with the way that we do this.
Mm-hmm.
And then the different opportunities, and the different, points of view with it. You're kind of a different background than I am, that Bo is, that other viewers might be different too. And then we all chime in and have a conversation together. I think that brings it together for everybody.
Yeah. Bo, good luck if you do get out. If you still got that buck tag in your pocket.
So
I hope
Bo's hunting the holiday season.
he's thinking about it. I think he's I
Absolutely,
hope he
man.
does, and I hope he tags a nice one.
I hope you shoot a stud, an absolute stud.
And if you do, you got to let us know.
But Brandon said comes down to knowledge, hunting stands on the right day, right wind, scent control, eliminating variables that you can control, and not worrying about what you can't. That's the key to being successful.
Brandon, good comment.
100%. Aaron said, good podcast, guys. Get it done on the holiday hunt. Aaron, you too, man. Good luck.
Aaron, if you still got your buck tag, I hope you
hope everybody out there, if you
them.
still got one, tags one.
I hope you get one. I think the holiday hunt's fun.
Yeah, no, I enjoy it.
I took advantage of it. What has it been? The past 2 years they did it?
This will be the second.
This will be the second? It was last year.
Yep.
Yeah. So. Well, I guess the first year they did it, I took advantage of it, and it worked out for me.
Yep. So thank you all for tuning in. We'll catch you next week. We're doing next week, right? Next Wednesday?
Yeah, because it's still season, right?
Still season.
It'll be
the last episode in season.
The last episode in season, then we might break it up a little bit. We might only do one or two.
Yep. Have some guests on, travel some places.
So the holiday season is the 26th to the 1st.
26th in the Southern Zone, next Monday, 26th through the 1st next Sunday.
So pretty much 5 p.m. on the 31st, it's done. Or is it actually on the 1st? You can hunt the 1st?
On the 1st.
All right, so I was mistaken.
On the 1st. Yep. So you can't hunt the 2nd, but you can hunt the 1st.
Oh, all right.
So anyway.
The big one will be at your on your camera in a second.
Absolutely. So Merry Christmas, everybody. Great point. Happy holidays, because this will be the last one before the holidays, too. So
yeah.
Good luck, everybody. Merry Christmas.
Wish you all the best of luck on the holiday hunt. Enjoy family. Drink some whiskey, tolerate the in-laws, everything else.
Yep, tolerate the in-laws. All that good
Not
stuff.
my in-laws. I love my in-laws.
So we'll catch y'all next time here at the bar or wherever we're tuning in for the podcast.
Hell yeah. See you guys.
Take care, guys. Merry Christmas.